Welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, break them apart. I was doing a little Nicolas Cage long legs there. To find out what gives them their magic. If you haven't seen that, it won't make sense, but you might see it. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my friend, co-host, and a certain young man, a big boy who has a birthday this month.
Alex Dandino.
Alex Dandino. Happy celestial month of your birth.
Oh, thanks, bud.
The time when you were pushed forth from the womb of the Double D into this world to be on a perfectly acceptable podcast.
I hope
It sounded more epic at the start.
I hope Donna listens to that one.
Oh, Donna's going to love that. She'll be like, I was there. It's true. It's all true. Okay, guys, this month we're just giving cinematic gifts to our pal Dandino for his birthday month. So up first, we have Alex's best friend, his longtime best friend, Evan Peter, right?
Oh, yeah.
Evan, I messaged him, right? They have written comic books together. Evan is an exceptional artist, a wonderful man, great guy. So I reached out and I said, hey, man, it would be great if, as Alex's best friend, you would let me know what movie you'd like to gift him this month. Evan returned. He had a list of very good options, but number one on the list was The Brothers Bloom. We hadn't discussed it yet, so I thought this would be a great place to start. Before we start, a little business. Everyone, please go to patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. Support the show. Guys, we are wrapping up our Tales from the Crypt Season 4 run here. On our way to the October Mega Marathon next month, if you're new to the show, every single day in October, 31 days, we will have 31 brand new podcasts, 3 of which will be on Patreon. Patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. Next month, you want to have the complete run of movies. That marathon is a big deal. That's kind of our show's whole entire gimmick, man. So, if you could be so kind to go over there and support, hell, it's Alex's birthday month. Give him a little gift by joining the Patreon community. We got an amazing block of stuff over there. We got a big Patreon exclusive library, commentaries, all kinds of stuff. We're always working on how to adjust the Patreon to be more awesome and more worth the support you guys are kind enough to give. So that would mean the world to us, especially in this next run. The YouTube is Film Alchemist. We're on all the socials you're on, including TikTok. We would really appreciate if you could share stuff around on those. That means the world to us. Make sure you're leaving 5-star ratings and reviews. That helps us defeat the algorithmic con men that won't let us just live and be free. Unbelievable. Make sure you email the show, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Make sure you go to misfitparade.net so you can check out movies that we're making, right? Lots of fun stuff. Our film Sugar Tits is touring around the country right now. It would be awesome if we could actually meet up with you and you could watch it with us somewhere. That would be great. Also, make sure you go check out my friends at Looper. You can see me talking about movies from the belly button up. All right. So, Alex.
Yes.
Why did Evan pick The Brothers Bloom, number one? What is it about this movie that would make it a perfect gift for you?
Did he give you a reason by chance?
Nope, he just said these are the movies.
Okay, cool. So The Brothers Bloom is Rian Johnson's second feature after Brick. Mm-hmm. I think
a
there's
hell of a step up from Brick, just on scale. I mean, this is quite a second movie. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's all the same little Rian Johnson-isms that we've come to know and love. But yeah, I mean, like in terms of a $500,000 movie to this, yes, quite the step.
Big old jump.
I think this. I think there's an element of, Evan and I when we're making stuff together, there's a level of Steven and Bloom to both of us, I think, when we're doing stuff. I also think that based on the other Rian Johnson movies we've done on the pod, he probably wanted to hear us talk about Rian Johnson. So that is my assertion from why he would pick this for my birthday month. Also, we both like this movie. So.
Yeah, you both just love this movie. Yeah, so I'll say this. This is the first time watch for me. I had never seen this movie.
Okay.
I will say I was a little like, uh-oh, when it started. It kind of has this like suit. It kind of felt like if Wes Anderson was doing his version of Tim Burton's Big Fish right at the start. And I was like, okay, weird. And then, man, by the end of the film, I was so fucking captivated. Like, Rian Johnson is really, like, of our younger filmmakers. I'm not even trying to say he's, like, young, but you know what I mean. He is, his like, meld of writing and directing. Like, there are some writer-directors that are clearly just way better at the one thing, right? He's really exceptional writer. Like, he's a very good writer, right? I think a lot of writer-directors, they're writing things because they want to direct the shit out of them. He is a very fucking good writer. And he finds this amazing blend of, this one it does kind of have that surreal Wes Anderson, like, idle riches, who are in these quasi-surreal and weird situations. So there's a lot of, like, jokes. There's a lot of unreality. But he always keeps it very grounded. Right? Because as he said, right, this is a movie about people who believe in this kind of theory, right? By the end of the movie, Stephen had told Penelope this one line, right? And that it's Bloom which is weird because his name is Bloom, but they're the brothers Bloom, so his name is Bloom.
I was trying to figure this out last
night. Mario thing. Anyways.
Yeah.
Penelope says, Stephen told me there's no such thing as an unwritten life. There's only a poorly written life. And that, to me, is a kind of great summary of the joy of this movie, right? Is that there's never a moment where you get lost in the reality or facade of the movie. You know it's about con men. You know it's about storytellers. You know it's about grown adults running about the world as children in the way that only the rich get to do, right? And that's great. That's fine. Like, you don't have to sit and worry about, I don't know, because we don't believe anyone for 1 second of the whole movie. But it's still earnest. It is an incredible writing trick.
Again, this is what Rian Johnson probably does better than anybody, is this kind of...
Well, now with Knives Out, right? Like, he is obviously amazing at the fucking whodunit caper.
Well, and he's done... Yeah, I think this is the thing, is Rian Johnson's a great writer, and I don't think we give him enough credit. Like, I know we've given him credit before, but I don't think we give him enough credit a lot of the time, is because... Rian Johnson spends so much... Like, this is someone who clearly read a lot of books. Not just about screenwriting, but, like, read an absurd amount of books and really understands...
This guy has read.
Like, I mean, like, and I don't...
They did drop that casual, is that a Melville book? Not the one... Because when she's like, this boat's called the Melville, I thought she was going to do the... because you are wearing a white coat and you look like Moby Dick. And then it's like, no, the one that no one's ever heard of. And it's like, oh, cool.
But it's not even like, and I know that sounds like a trite thing to say, but what it is that not just because he's a learned person, it's more just Rian Johnson has read so much about, like, thematic arcs, read so many stories about how stories are to be told in any form, like, besides, like, Melville, obviously Agatha Christie now, James Joyce, like, all these things that are these titans of literature, that he's able to synthesize it and turn it into these pieces of movies. Like, and I think that this is, like, a really important thing about the way Rian Johnson writes is Rian Johnson does not write for anybody other than Rian Johnson. We are just all lucky enough to still understand that Rian Johnson's writing for us as well. He just happens to occasionally, like, it just catches.
Yeah. And occasionally that fucking like turns on him in a big, brutal way, right? Which happens. I think, and that's what I mean. I think there's something about...
There's a whole other thing there, but...
That's a whole other thing, right? But I hate guys that have this kind of... There's like a movie that Rian Johnson just makes. There's Rian Johnson films. I hate seeing people who do those kind of movies get lost in the studio shuffle. Because when we're going to see a studio movie, the masses have agreed. We don't want to see a singular, interesting story. We want the same old shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I hated seeing him get lost in that. And it was great to see him come back and get to do Knives Out. Glass Onions wasn't very good, but neither here nor there. It was still fun, right? But he's now a guy who gets to write his ticket. He can make those kind of movies. And I think The Brothers Bloom, honestly, is the best Rian Johnson movie I've ever seen. Because it's this perfect synthesis of these elements that Because again, I think with him, it's this. Again, it's these kind of fucking untouchable, weird playthings, right? Like these are rich orphans, con men. They're all super smart. Penelope just has learned every fucking skill. Again, it's like watching a boy play with paper dolls that are so unique that only he has them. And that's what I want. I don't want to watch him come play with my Star Wars figures.
Well, I think the other thing about this is that,
to be fair, I liked his Star Wars movie too. Not to fucking.
I did too. That's another.
I was saying the masses. I didn't mind that movie.
I liked that movie a lot, actually.
There were a couple things that were bad, but neither here nor there.
That's another show. I do think.
I think we literally did that other show. Yeah,
we did do that.
Go listen to The Last Jedi on the Film Alchemist pod feed.
I think the thing that I like the most about this movie, like Rian Johnson does this thing that not many people can do, which is he basically can write a movie about a thing that none of us actually like. It's this romanticism that I think gets lost sometimes in what I would say is like, especially like in this time period of filmmaking, is like
this was 2008. Yeah.
This is like 2008. Brick's the same way though, where what you do is you romanticize this portion of the populace in filmmaking, which is like, oh, everyone's seen a detective movie. Okay, cool. Well, let's take these like elements of detective story and like make them really weird and quirky and set it in a high school and that kind of thing. Cool, whatever. What's nice about the Brothers Bloom is the brothers nobody knows what con men do other than con people, but you don't understand how they actually con people. Mm-hmm. And then what you do is you set up the whole movie with this Ricky Jay narration, which is amazing, about like how the con began. And it becomes this story about like what it really ends up being is not about like the con. It's not about the job or anything like that. It is about like wish fulfillment and feeling unfulfilled in whatever pursuit you are.
Yeah.
You are whatever you are in pursuit of. And I think again, that's like the trick of any great Rian Johnson movie is that it ends up not being about what it's supposed to be, like what we all think it's supposed to be about. I think that's like the other big part of it is those are the things that make Rian Johnson movies watchable to me.
Well, I think again, like his is there needs to be this kind of like fun and whimsy, right? So the opening of the movie, we follow the two brothers that are orphans that essentially they're half orphan, half punching bag for any adult that's within arm's reach.
Correct.
It's kind of this sad, like, all right, it has this very folk tale kind of opening, right? This, weird Americana to it, right? About these small towns, like, it's a one hat town. It has one store, one post office, one this, one that. Kind of taking aim at like the whole, like, the world you live in sucks. You don't want to be in the world you live in. You want to be in our world. We want to be in a world where we watch them come up with the first con, right? This Will of the Wisp. Which, again, that's just one of those things where you're like, all right, that's a whiff of bullshit. Like, kids know what the Will of the Wisp is that don't play D&D. Like, fuck off. In this one-hat town, they must have an excessively good library. Neither here nor there.
Again, a red gentleman.
Yeah, and they run into the cave, and, they're slipping in mud, and they see the light, and it was worth their $2, right? The brothers get $30, and the kids get the fucking thrill, the story of a childhood, right? Only to be undone, but they were in it with the dry cleaner, whatever. That's the first con. All that doesn't really matter. What matters is that moment where we see Bloom run first into the cave. He is completely caught and captivated by the ruse that he himself set up. And when he runs ahead of those people, and he doesn't slip in the mud, and he sees his brother turn the lantern and run away, that moment of disillusionment, right? That's where this movie exists. As we watch Bloom, oh, there is no magic. The girl he has the crush on's running ahead and like calling for him to come. He just stops. He's frozen. Because he realized there is nothing good in the world. There's nothing true or magical in the world, right? That's what this movie is. This movie's saying that's the real world. That's the world we live in. When you pay your money to come sit in the theater, you don't want to be in that world, right? As Steven says, the theory of the brothers, right, is the best con is the one where everyone gets what they want. That's what this movie is. Rian Johnson gets to make this flight of whimsy and have all the fun and have no stakes, no drama, no, like, we don't have to waste minutia about, like, who are the players. Like, it felt like at one point this movie would veer more Ocean's 11 for me, right? Like a lot more of this, the plan. Their plans have the heft of Napoleon Dynamite, right? Where it's just people writing like weird shit on papers. And I was like, that's enough. I don't fucking care about the machinations of this ruse. I will say, because there's a point in the movie where you as an audience have to decide the thinness of this caper, right? And it really comes when they get to the basilica or whatever with the book. When that tower fucking blows up, you're like, this has to change the movie I'm watching. That has to matter. That is an act of international terrorism. And the movie goes, nope, we just won't even talk about it. We'll brush right past it. And you as an audience at that point decide, are you still with this movie or not? And I was just like, yeah, I'm still having fun with this movie.
Yeah.
I'm still having fun.
I don't think there's anything that happens in the movie that isn't entertaining. Like, I think this is like the key, is another key element of this movie, and something that I really loved about it the first time I saw it, which was that it never shies away from the whimsy. Like, all of it is absurd. Like, the absurdity of the movie is what kind of makes it charming and watchable in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And
you hit on it, though, but it's the Ricky James narration. This whole movie feels as if we're watching the children's book of what happened.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Like, Ricky Jay narrates, and then you get to you see them as kids, and then you get to them as adults, and it's Mark Ruffalo and Adrian Brody, who are fucking amazing.
The cast of this movie fucking
I'm going to say this again. He's done so much like Marvel stuff, and like, thank God he got to do Poor Things. Again, it's just one of those great things, because I fucking love Mark Ruffalo doing and look, everyone needs, he's made his money, and I think that's fucking wonderful. I don't give a shit. But I love when Mark Ruffalo is just doing, like, when he's in these kinds of movies, he's fucking unbelievable, man.
Yeah, well, there's a class of actor and director and writer, and you're like, I don't need to see them in my giant conglomerate movie, right? The same way, like, I don't want a really good chef to work at Burger King. I like Burger King. It's fucking tasty. It's exactly what I want on a given day. It feels like your skills are a bit wasted, right? And Ruffalo being the cartoon Hulk who doesn't Hulk, that's not what he's good at. Him screaming cunt in the streets of fucking,
it's the funniest thing of the entire year last year.
Fucking Paris, you're like, that's the Mark Ruffalo I want.
Fucking
God! Like, me and my wife yell that through our house all the time. Like, that's the Mark Ruffalo I want. This, Stephen Bloom, is the Mark Ruffalo I want. He is such a charming, charismatic rapscallion, right? That's
rapscallion, dude. That's the word. Like, he is. You get to
gentleman
see him
scoundrel, right? That's what he should be playing.
Well, you know what's interesting too is, like, originally, him and Adrian Brody actually were, like, Rian Johnson wanted to cast them in the swapped roles. Originally, like, he wanted Mark Ruffalo to be Bloom, and then they were like,
surprise me?
It doesn't surprise me either, and both of them were like, can we swap roles? Because I think we'd actually do the other. I'd do that one better than him.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really fascinating, like,
I don't know how much the movie changes per se. I'll say this. My wife immediately, when we were watching it, she's just like, I've just never liked Adrian Brody. There's just something about him I don't like. She's like, I just kind of find him hateable and, like, his face punchable. And I was like, you know what? Now that you say that, I agree. I like him as an actor. Like, I think he's a very talented actor. I've never found that to be the case. He does look immediately like one of those people that I'm like, yeah, I bet that guy's a cock. You know what I mean?
I've never found that to be the case.
He's very talented as an actor. I've never heard anything. There are just, it's the classic Step Brothers. It's like, I just hate your face. I want to punch your face. Like, can I work on that? Is there no, it's your face. It's all of it. Like, there's just, when I see you, I get enraged.
I don't feel that way about him in general.
Stephen Bloom, I don't know that works as much.
I don't think it works at all.
Because I think he's the kind
quality of Bloom.
Because this is the quality. Mark Ruffalo pours out charisma. Adrian Brody does not.
Right. The quality of Bloom that is required for this is this moroseness.
Morose, great word. Yes,
that's it. Is this moroseness that Mark Ruffalo can't do? Adrian Brody can do it because he has the
we saw him try to do that in Spotlight, and it's like, That's all right. That's
he
not
has
the Mark Ruffalo
he has
I want to watch it.
like Adrian Brody has the downturned eyes. We've already seen him be the pianist, which was like the saddest fucking movie.
He looks like a
ever.
ferret who never gets enough sleep.
Yeah,
which
he
is the hot
already
thing now.
is. He already is a sad. He's already a sad boy. So he's doing
Sad
it.
boy summer.
He does it up. And again, I like Adrian Brody in other movies. Like I think he's fucking amazing in
He's
like
a
Detachment.
great actor. Great.
He's
actor.
he's a great Pat Riley. But like,
Oh, he was really good in that. Good call.
he's really fucking good.
I
but-
even liked him as the scrawniest person to ever fight a predator.
Yeah, absolutely. Fine.
Like he was.
That's
I was
fine.
like,
Works
if
for me
I can
too.
watch a movie where I'm supposed to believe Adrian Brody is a special forces soldier who's going to fight the predator, that's good acting. I don't feel like
absolutely.
Adrian Brody could beat my children in a wrestling match. He is built like
think
Jack
that-
Skellington with better hair.
Yeah,
That's
I
just
think
good acting.
again, but he's got sad boy energy, and he pulls it off in this movie. That's what it is, and I think that's like a key component to this movie working. Is those two, their interplay is so good, and they're so like for being brothers, they're just so opposite of each other, and it's very their togetherness is very interesting to me. It's really fast. Again, they just have great chemistry, and again, to Ryan Johnson's credit, he saw it and went with it, and it's also
They definitely
it's
made
just
the right
all these
choice.
pieces that are really good. And then you have Rachel Weisz, who is also doing
She's
I don't know, a
playing.
billion
This
things.
is if there's a role in the movie that doesn't all the way work for me, it's Rachel Weisz, because she's essentially doing this like Natalie Portman in A Garden State is like one of the worst examples. That like indie dream girl, where you're like,
Sure.
this is like the absolute weird science fabrication of like an undersexed nerd. Like these women do not exist, right? Like Rachel Weisz is a character that 100% is Ryan Johnson's like fantasy of a woman. He's like, I just want to meet a super hot lady who's rich, lives in a mansion, and is a hobbyist. And you're like, okay, fair. Again, though, the movie acknowledges that up front. By the end of the movie, it's almost impossible to accept that Rachel Weisz is not either one of Steven's characters or also way ahead of them, knows that she's part of a con, but because it's a great adventure, she doesn't care. The movie specifically tells us she's the one who blows up the tower at the Basilica.
Mm-hmm.
She blows that fucking tower up, right? Because at the end, she blows her house up in the exact same way, right? She's the one who had to have done that, right? Bang Bang didn't do it. The question becomes why and how. Again, we're not going to ask how she got out of this international terrorist moment. That's not important, right? As Steven even says, because Bloom's like, why don't you ask her how she got out of it? He goes, how obtuse. Because to me, he's working with her, right? He's trying, his journey in the movie is to get Bloom to write his own character. He even says at the end, in a moment that definitely made me cry because brother movies are so hard for me now, when he said, you're the only audience I ever needed. It's one of my favorite lines in any movie I've seen in the last handful of years, right? It's a fucking beautiful line. But he's just trying to get his brother to engage with life. Stop being paralyzed, engage with life. And for me, I don't know if you agree with this. I think Penelope, do you think she's in on it or she's just way ahead of them?
I think she's way ahead of him. I always think like when you watch it when you watch it with the understanding that she's ahead of them the whole time. And again, this goes to this.
Do you give any credence to the fact that Steven could have contacted her in advance, that she could be one of his operatives?
She could, because when they scout the mark, he immediately Bloom's immediately no women. We've already been over this a million times. We don't do women. That's not okay. Like there's this
if she's in on it, it's kind of a weird. Like the proposition of that would be something I wish we would have seen. Hey, can you take my sad puppy made human brother and let him milk off your money and teach him how to live a life?
I think what's interesting too is like if this was the Ocean's 11 version of this movie, we would have seen all that. I think
the Ocean's 11 movie ends with like, she was conning them the whole time, right? This like classic Kaiser Soze thing.
Like, and again, the brilliance of Ryan Johnson's script is that we don't care at the end who was conning who. We just know that everyone got what they wanted finally. It was the perfect con.
Yeah, the movie's conning us, right? The movie is telling you we're not going to give you the classic con man caper movie.
Everything crazy that happens in this movie that gets glossed over again, like the basilica blowing up and her getting out of it.
Yeah, like, how about the fact that, there's Russians and Diamond Dog. They hint that Diamond Dog probably sexually assaulted Bloom as a kid, right? Yeah. They hint at we don't have to talk. And then he's back as one of their playmates. And then they're getting shot at in the car. And then Steven quite possibly actually gets murdered at the end of the movie. But we don't stop the whimsy, right? In fact, moments are almost there to remind us of why the whimsy's important.
Died. Huh? He died for sure.
I think he died for sure. But again, it's one of those movies where I can't say anything happened for sure.
I think that's the only thing I can say happened for sure, actually. That's the only thing they do give the breadcrumb for is the blood thing. That's
but it's also, he's one of those guys that, he could have just figured out better stage blood at this point, right? Again, I think the movie's fun. It's like a Sopranos thing. It's like, why put a finite ending on it? Right? Why not let myself have at least like a 1% hope that Steven did just pull the perfect con and he's on his way to meet Bang Bang somewhere.
Speaking of Bang Bang,
because the movie doesn't let that moment sit enough,
right?
That Steven just fucking died. Nay, Steven was fucking murdered. The movie does not let that fucking play out in a way that is satisfying, if I'm being honest, right? I love when he gets up and he's like, "You said it, not me," and he hugs him. And he goes, "You were always the only audience I needed." When he does he finally gets the card. And you're like, that probably wasn't his card. He's just letting his brother say it was, right?
Sure.
Okay, that moment is great. To then cut back to the blood is brown and Steven is actually dying. Not a satisfying moment. The movie did not execute that well, but there is something in that I wanted to ask you about. So sure. Steven's sitting there, right, in an empty theater with the spotlight on. It's a really cool image. Right, for this kind of conman, showman, whatever. He plants the Queen of Hearts up his sleeve, and we get this sense that door is opening in the back of the empty auditorium. And he has a visible reaction to that door opening. Who or what do you think Steven is seeing come through that door in his final moments?
I mean, I think it's just Steven's exit. That's all.
That's it? Because I was wondering, I was like, is this a hint because it's the Queen of Hearts? I was like, was there a mother figure somewhere? I was like, I don't know what they were going for.
I think for
me,
it
doesn't feel like it would be Bloom because Bloom just took off.
No,
right?
For me, it's always been this is his exit.
Is it Bang Bang coming back to try to maybe save him? I don't know.
Maybe she appears and disappears as she will. Speaking of Bang Bang, we've not talked about Rinko Kikuchi at all, who is maybe the secret weapon of this movie because she is like the coolest character in this whole
coolest shit. Again, another kind of
amazing
fantasy machination of an undersexed nerd, but awesome, but fucking awesome. Rad. Like crushes in the kind of Silent Bob role.
It might be my favorite character. Probably one of my favorite character entrances ever is when they're all at the party. And the guy who walks up to like, I really like anime. And I'm like, perfect. This is just...
Dude, that's like Ryan Johnson. You're telling on yourself. Did you do that to someone? Did you do that to someone? Yeah, that's horrible. That's horrifying. But yeah,
that might be one of my all-time favorite entrances.
She's fine. She's cool again. I wish she had more. I wish they had utilized her a bit more by the end. Right? I love the final note where it's like Happy Trails, partner. And it's her little drawing, and like it's a car bomb. But again, like Penelope's just like, I feel like I want to know so much more about her. And I was like, yeah, she's fucking cool. She's the fifth Beatle. I want to know more about her. But then again, it's like, it's just not that kind of movie. It's not a movie that's going to stop and dwell on anything other than the kind of Technicolor facade that we're playing in, right? And to expose her at a more deep level would be not giving everyone everything they want, right? It would be antithetical to the con we're doing, right? So we just have to accept she's cool as fuck. Like when she's shooting Barbie so much that she shoots that tree in half. And that's just in the background. You're like, God, she's fucking cool. Like, she's just fucking cool.
There's enough there that just makes you go, oh, dude, like, I would.
Yeah, she's a really cool prop within the film.
She is a really great, like, she's this great, like, fifth Beatle is a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Like, she is the flavor in the background.
Flavor. She's the spicing. She's the fixins, right? Like, she's just there to make it better, right? And again, I think that's the beautiful trick of the movie. Like, even Robbie Coltrane pops up, who I fucking love Robbie Coltrane. Not just because I look like a half-ass Haggard. I just love him. Like, I love that man. I love him in everything he's in. He's a great actor. He has this small, like, bit part in it, right, where he's the curator. And he has, like, a line in the movie that I also just will fucking cherish forever, where he kisses Rachel Weisz's hand. And he's like, your smile is the sun, mon chéri, right? And he goes, we broken men, we need to see the sun. That's a bad paraphrasing. I don't have my actual notes with me. But again, the sentiment of that, I was just like, yeah, fuck yeah. And that's what, like, this script has just a lot of those kind of great punctuating lines.
There's really
and it's
nice
not that
punctuation
easy to do. So many writers write lines like that don't fucking work in the moment. They're not good.
I think this is another thing, Ryan. Like, we're talking about Rian Johnson as a writer-director, and I think this is what's great about him as a writer-director is his writing is so good, but he also understands how to direct the thing he's writing. And I think that happens a lot with writer-directors is they don't understand that it's two different muscles. And what you can't do is be so obsessed with. You can't be so obsessed with the script that you let the performance suffer, but you can't also let you can't let the script suffer because the performance is too good.
Because you want to direct the fuck out of something, yeah.
Yeah. Like, the synthesis is there that everybody just has these wonderful moments that absolutely, like, in any other hands would fall flat or be a bad line or like, oh, that's not a great read. Like, I wouldn't have done that. But there's something about, I think people who come to Rian Johnson's movies get so interested and so engaged, and from what I like, again, I actually, like, we went to a PGA screening for the Glass Onion, and it was fascinating because everybody's just like, he's so engaging, like, he's so excited to be there and see everyone.
That's
and,
a
like,
great way to describe it. And again, we've talked about this a lot. The only, like, true blue movie sin you can create to me, I can forgive almost anything. I can't fucking stand paycheck movies. Where you can tell there's not a single person there that on an artistic or creative level is, like, euphoric to chase down this pursuit, right? Like, this is a story that must be fucking told. This is a story that, if not for Rian Johnson, would never be made. No one would write this story. And those are the stories, to me, you have to truly cherish, right? I think now we get lost a lot in this, like, is it a Marvel? Is it a big studio? What's going to happen to the movie theaters? You have to see movies in the theater, blah, 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 blah. I don't, like, seeing this movie in a theater doesn't change anything for me. What this movie does, and the thing that we're losing in movies more often than not, as we become less, or should I say we become more risk adverse, right? Where more of the movies based on these kind of financial things, right? This isn't the 90s where we're just throwing spec scripts around like a motherfucker. Yeah. Now everything is so modulated to this is the scale. This is what we need to do. This is the way we'll get it out to the world. My insulin pump is going nuts because it agrees with me. It's cheering me from the cheap seats. I don't live in a world of whimsy. I've got the beaties. It's not called live of beaties. Anyways, continuing my point. What I love about Rian Johnson when he's doing these kind of movies is that euphoric, how do I get to make this weird fucking movie? Yeah. Right? And again, that's something you do not see when he went to the studio. That inherently gets ground out because you're working within the machine, right? And he, God bless his soul, he fucking went hard to try to, like, make it his own little thing. He tried very fucking hard. I give him all the credit in the world for that. But this is the movie I want my talented writers and filmmakers to be trying to make. Whether it works or not, I don't care. This is a movie that only exists because of one artist's, like, really dogged pursuit that this has to be a thing, right? And then he found other great artists to help him make it exist. This is what the best cinema is to me.
I think that's the coolest thing about the Brothers Bloom, honestly, is beyond the fact that it wouldn't exist without Rian Johnson, is that it is just a Rian Johnson film. Like, I don't know how, like, again, that fiercely independent thing, the thing you do, it's sort of thankless. Like, you just make things because, and we're heading towards this weird time again. Like, I think, it happened in the early 90s. It happened again in the like mid 2000s with YouTube and, early streaming platforms. We're heading this direction again with streamers. Is independent cinema, I think, is going to have a big fucking bust, a big boom again, because there is no rule book again. Like, you just
power
sort of make
structures are changing. The reward incentive structures are changing. The problem we face ourselves, which again Rian Johnson didn't have, is yes, more people will have an avenue to have their voice seen, right? Mm-hmm. That sounds weird. To have their vision seen, right? And their voices heard. You can make a movie and you can get it out to where people can access it. Yeah. The problem is getting through that fucking noise. And then if you're lucky enough, because we're both going to be doing this, right? We're both producing independent movies right now. Let's say you're lucky enough someone finds you. They click on you over the 10,000 other movies that come out every week, right? You better have something to say. There better be an idiosyncrasy to it. There better be a reason to watch your movie. If you're just making the 5,000th fucking slasher in the woods, right? With nothing to say. If you're making another coming of age, I was a sad teenager movie with nothing to say, that to me is the nightmare. Is that someone actually finally gets to your work and finds it pretty hollow, finds it unmemorable. And Rian Johnson, and to some audiences, probably to the detriment, this movie is weird enough that it's inaccessible. Not weird like, wow, I've never seen anything like that. It's just like, who are these fucking dipshits, right? She makes watermelon cameras. Like, there are certain audiences that are going to be like, what? Like, what is happening? I'm okay.
I think that's like, idiosyncrasy is the best way to put it. Like, here, this is always the line that gets me, because I never understood. I had to research this after like the second time I watched this movie. Never understood, because there's a line when they're scouting Penelope, and he walks towards the car. He's like, 78 caddy, controversial choice. Didn't understand why that was a joke. Like,
that's a good question.
I don't
why
get
is
that
a fucking joke?
Okay, it's not really a joke. It actually is.
I guess
true.
I thought that would get paid off, and it just never did.
Okay, so actually, it's an in-joke about the actual make of the Cadillac. So in 1978, the 1978 Cadillac Seville, people felt was based on the Chevy Nova rather than the classic Cadillac design. And many people believe it diluted the brand, as opposed to, and then other people believed that it was actually better and thought it was more like the Mercedes-Benz. Like, again, it is the most meaningless throwaway joke.
Weird fucking thing to put in your movie.
Pure idiosyncrasy. You're like, why not? Why the hell not? Like, that's like, here's the thing. These characters, those are the kinds of things that, like, those guys would know. These are the things that, like, Bloom would be interested in. Is like, oh, that's a 78 Cadillac, cool and weird, but all right, cool.
Yeah, I mean, he does shit. Like, I was reading about this movie, and they talked about this fucking photographer. Who was it? Arbus, right? Like some Russian photographer.
Oh, yeah. Diana Arbus. Yeah,
that's where the watermelon thing came from, right? And Penelope had this quote: "A picture is a secret about a secret. The more you know, the more it tells, the less you know," right? Something like that.
Yeah.
That's this movie. The more you know, or the more it tells, the less you know. That's what this movie is. This movie is a secret about a secret. And the secret is that you don't always need to know, right? This movie's keeping things back from us. It's hiding things from us. It's not taking us into deep waters. This movie is a lazy river, not a fucking, swimming in a torrential, fucking violently churning sea. This is a lazy river. And a great one, where you get refills on your drinks, right? It's at a resort. Like, I love it. But again, that's what this movie's more about. And sometimes there are movies that take you too deep and churn so hard that you as an audience don't have time to put your own feelings in these characters. And these characters are hollow vessels, right? They have all these weird, like, traits and stuff. to make them seem like unique and weird movie characters. It also makes them not real people. So we as an audience naturally meet those characters halfway, and we put our humanity into them.
Right.
So in a weird way, the less relatable and human they are, it lets us fucking really do a lot of that work, which often can make it. It's like when I watch Manchester by the Sea, right? That movie is fucking unrelenting brutality. In that movie, I spend the whole movie trying to be as far away from Casey Affleck as I can. So I find it harder to like relate with him or go on a journey with him, right? Even if you sympathize with the plight he's going through. This movie, these kind of hollow fucking caricatures of rich whites, I am able to inject myself into their heads a lot, right? So it is kind of this, it often feels,
I think,
contrary to how it should.
I think the summation of that, and this is why this is what's so great about this. What's so great about this movie? Rian Johnson tells you exactly like why this movie's going to work at the outset. When
we're all going to get what we want. Yeah.
When Norza Hetner shows up in Bloom's like depressingly playing solitaire by himself, and Norza Hetner walks in and she like tries to, she's like, you don't understand. The line is, you don't understand what my brother does. He writes his cons the way dead Russians write novels, with thematic arcs and embedded symbolism and shit. And he wrote me as the vulnerable anti-hero, and that's why you think you want to kiss me. It's a con. Like, we're all duped from the start in this movie because, like, this is like a weird Russian novel where all of us sort of inject our own personality into the character we see ourselves
And it's
as.
fucking brilliant to make the whole movie the con instead of making a movie about a con.
Absolutely. That's what makes this movie better.
I had never seen this. This might be already instantly at the very top of my first time watches of the year. Like, I loved this movie, right?
It's very good.
And it just captures
very good and very undersold.
It's, honestly, when he said that, in my brain, I conjured the trailer for The Brothers Grimm with Matt Damon. That's what I thought he was talking about. I was like, that's a weird one. Okay. I don't even know that I had remembered this movie existed.
This movie came out and went so fast because it was 2008. I don't remember what else came out, but like, honestly, I think it just was so, I think it was like maybe 2 years too early or something like that.
Yeah.
Like this kind of movie. For this to be his second film, I think people were still very much like on that
2008, we had The Dark Knight, Iron Man, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Hancock.
I mean, we're at the very
Wall-E,
beginning.
Kung Fu Panda, Twilight, Quantum of
We're at the
Solace.
very beginning.
Wow, dude.
We're at the very beginning of major.
Like, there are some giant fucking franchises that are dropping right
on.
there. Cloverfield.
And this one came out in
Rambo. I'm just kind of running through the list. It's kind of interesting to go in Bruges.
Not only that. Wait, this got released in 2009?
Oh, did it? I thought it was 8. IMDb has it as 2008.
Yeah, so the release dates in the United States, June 2009 was when
Diary of the Dead, a movie that I worked on. That was when I had first got to Hollywood.
They started making film festival rounds in 2008. And in 2009 it had its official release. But here's the other thing. It had a limited It had a limited US release in May of 2019.
So when all the big fucking
comic book movies are starting to hit.
Yeah. Hey, do you want to come wear bowler hats?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you'll get to see Rachel Weisz's butt. You're like, that's a good sell, but pretty brief. I'll tell you this. You know what I would have made the whole trailer? It's just her rolling around on that bed being like, storms make me horny. That would have been the whole trailer. You want to sell a movie? I'll Don Draper this for you. If you show Rachel Weisz going, as like lightning hits, and Adrian Brody sitting there like he's a kid hoping not to get called to the chalkboard because he has an erection, and she just goes, man, storms make me horny. I bet your box office goes up 10 times.
I think
10 times.
Andrea, besides that, Andrea put it best where last night we were watching and she was like, I could watch an entire movie of Mark Ruffalo wearing the shit out of that hat and those glasses. I was like, well, there you go.
There you go.
There's your indie crowd. There's your indie crowd, and then you can see Rachel Weisz's butt.
For people who like kind of like artsy fucking hipster hot, This movie's a missile.
That's it. This is a missile.
This is a fucking secret sex appeal movie.
If you haven't seen
it's not
this,
that everyone knows everyone
people,
wants to bang Mark Ruffalo and Rachel Weisz. I don't know why we're saying it like that.
If you haven't seen this movie,
we've
also
unfurled this secret called gravity. Yeah, no shit. What are you talking about? Oh, people want to bang Rachel Weisz and Mark Ruffalo.
Oh my
Great
God.
insight.
Okay. I'll say something about this after the pod, but that just reminded me of this fucking crazy TikTok clip I just saw. And I'm like, I cannot believe this. There's a woman who was like on a podcast. She's like, we don't need gravity. And I'm like, I hate you.
It's like my algorithm is insanely flooded with young people on podcasts just saying the dumbest shit. And believe me, there's this one about this lady. She's like, this guy, I don't know. It's like one of those shows where like they just insult women, I guess. But the clip was 2 + 2 = 4. And she's like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, 2 + 2 = 4. She's like, on what level? He goes, life? And she goes,
level?
well, maybe on a subatomic level. And she just goes on this rant. And I was like, what is happening? There's another one where a guy's just like, fish aren't animals. And it's like a whole fucking subgenre of just very young people who have like internet brain, where they read things about people who want to seem really smart by questioning basic common sense things.
And to that point, that's
why we need the Brothers Bloom to escape.
And that's
this
why you
fucking,
need a guy
we need to escape
who reads
this
books.
fucking prison that Skynet and the Matrix have started to plant on us.
You need a learned bookman to write a movie like the Brothers Bloom and us all to enjoy it.
That's right. I agree. That's it for the Brothers Bloom. That's not it for Alex's birthday month. Next up, Alex's amour. Alex's wife.
Ooh, Andrea?
Alex's wife, and I'll preface, she said, ooh, how about the movie Challengers? Because Alex and I saw the trailer and he said, man, that movie looks horny. So your wife wanted to give you a horny movie present.
Is it possible?
Take that as you will.
By the way, it's possible this pod might get someone laid. So there's no better
I
ad
find
than
that
that
very hard to believe. If you're telling
There's
me that
no-
women hear our voices and then run to better men, yes, maybe. I'll say this. Challengers so far is easily my favorite movie of the year. So I'm fucking ecstatic to talk about it. What a great
Excited
movie.
to talk about it.
We'll be back continuing to give Alex birthday gifts. Make sure you go to patreon.com/FilmAlchemistPod. You can vote on the exclusive movie that Alex gets to watch this month. We're doing a Batman Forever commentary, which will be really fun. We are building up to our October mega marathon starting October 1st. 31 days, 31 brand new horror movie pods. A new pod every single fucking day. But you got to be on Patreon awesome to get them all. We are excited. This is the best time of the year. Happy birthday, Alex. We love you, buddy.
Hey, thanks, man.